All right, Rob Brown in Memphis, Brendan Martin, Ocala, Florida. Saw on the TV yesterday, Brendan, Marion County, Florida, traffic jam on I-75. My friend Philip Cowart left Auburn to go down to Boca Raton to take supplies to his daughter, son-in-law, and 2 grandkids. And I'm sure he's back. He went down and back. So he should have been back yesterday. But, wow, what a day. Got a big show, man. Starting off, Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover. What's going on the plains? Hang on to that recruiting class, Auburn. Don't cannibalize yourself. Mitch Davis, MitchDavisShow.com. Mitch always, never bashful about his opinions. That's what we love about him. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville. David Whitley, Gainesville Sun, great writer. Big part of the Buddy Martin show. Was on with him last night. Looking forward to him. The first time he's been on. We will cover all 16 SEC teams. Smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. And folks, get ready. Class is in session. Get pen and paper handy. And we're going to cover a lot of ground. It's going to be a great show right after this.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown and Brendan Martin with Jason Caldwell. Jason, what a year it's been so far. Every weekend, but it's parity, the portal. There's a lot of factors that cause it. We were up in Fayetteville for that Tennessee-Arkansas game. I can't help. I got a lot of pride in seeing what Travis Williams is doing. That guy's you know him. You followed his whole career from, I think, day one at Auburn. But this league is just a grind. Let's get your thoughts on what's going on with Auburn, because you made a very prophetic point early on before the season started. If things go bad, you said, look, you'll hang on to that class, but you go 4-8. It's a different scenario. Auburn's at 2-4 right now. They got a break. Whole season, 6 games, starting fresh. What's your read on that locker room and the sidelines, the players, the coaches, and everybody at Auburn?
Yeah, no, I honestly, I know there's frustration, but I don't think there's quit. It's year 2.
Yeah.
If there's quit, then you'd be doing something else. And that's the thing. And so I look at it as seeing the team that thinks they're pretty close, and I think they're pretty close too. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have holes. They're pretty close with the roster they have. I wrote something this week because I talked to a bunch of folks I know at Georgia, and on the field Saturday, they're like, this looks like a much better team than we've seen the last 8-10 years. And they're right. It's a much better group of guys. The problem is that you still have issues on the lines of scrimmage because you haven't recruited very well for the past. And I had to answer something last night. I normally don't do that, but I had to answer something last night because Kevin Skarminski is talking about things, and he likes to bring up the negatives. And hey, that's what people like to do sometimes. Yeah. And I just had to remind him, because I'm sure he doesn't know, because if you don't pay attention to the finer details of why things go wrong, then all you look at is the results. And for 5 classes before Hugh Freeze arrived, Auburn signed 9 high school offensive linemen total.
Yeah.
Georgia signed 24. I went back and looked. Georgia signed 24 during that time. Auburn signed 9 guys. If you don't have guys to develop, then you have to go sign portal guys. And as we've seen, you're not going to make a living out of just signing a bunch of portal players and hoping that you hit on all of them. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's where you are on the lines of scrimmage right now for Auburn, and even at other positions. Wide receivers, you can find guys like that because there's a lot more of them.
Yeah.
It's hard to find quality offensive and defensive linemen in the portal because everybody needs them.
Yeah.
So that's where you are right now.
Yeah, and I had a great conversation with a family. One of my friends, we went to Auburn together, and their family are Nelson Club donors. They support Auburn on everything, and they're doubling down on their support right now. I mean, this is a great family, the May family from Tuscaloosa, and I was talking last night, and I said, I guess it's a lot like if you're a surgeon and a trauma surgeon, and you see somebody that's all torn up from a car wreck. You see it. You see that every day, unfortunately. You're going to get them up. You're going to save them. The average fan that doesn't know what's going on behind the scenes, oh, this is terrible. You start firing coaches every 2 or 3 years because of knee-jerk reactions. You're going to be where Tennessee's been since they got rid of Fulmer in 2008. Now, they had a double-digit win season in 22, but it took them 15 years to get back to that point. You are definitely a truth broker, Jason. I have a boatload of respect for you because you don't drink the Kool-Aid. Nobody has been more accurate about the melees on the offensive line at Auburn. How do you rate the job that they're doing right now with what they have, and specifically Percy Lewis?
Yeah, I think offensively, the turnovers are an issue. A lot of the turnovers were not caused by the offensive line. I think the offense has been pretty good. That was probably as good as an offense has played, and it is. We went back and looked. That's the most yards an Auburn team's had in Athens, Georgia since 2009. That's incredible.
Okay. Remember, Auburn got out 14-0 in that game. Remember that?
Yes, and so there are things that they are doing really well. Should they be 2-4? Absolutely not. That I'm not just throwing all this on a lack of talent. There's been some coaching issues, and I saw some of those Saturday too. And those things have to get fixed. They have to get cleaned up. But when you look at it, there are things. And here's the thing. Honestly, right now, offensive line, it is what it is. I think we'll see more of Tyler Johnson moving forward. I think you'll start to see some of those things. Yeah. Defensive line is the same issue for different reasons. You've recruited okay there, but none of those guys are here. And then you find guys that aren't good enough. And so you've had to go and say, look, if we need to go to get experienced players. And you go get experienced players on the defensive line at defensive tackle. If you're a defensive tackle that's good enough to be in the NFL, then you're going to the NFL. If you're not, and you're not playing, then you're going somewhere else. That's what you left with in the portal. And so you go get the guys that have experience and they're older, but they're not dynamic enough to go out and win consistently in this league. And saw that Saturday against Georgia. You've been good enough against Arkansas and Oklahoma, who didn't have a downfield passing game, who were just kind of running the quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, you see a team that stands in the pocket and slings it a little bit. All of a sudden, if Keldrick Faulk's a little banged up, you don't have anybody to get to the quarterback. And you can't send 9 or 8 or 7. Like, you can't leave your young guy. So you have to go, we're going to play soft. We're going to make them drive down the field and try to stop them in the red zone. When you can't stop them in the red zone, you're just not quite good enough. And so lines of scrimmage, they've been good enough to win, but they're not good enough to go still yet compete at the highest levels.
I mean, Auburn is a lot like, if you know anything about all this AI, NVIDIA is a stock. It's a big company. Just did a 10-for-1 split. My son was meeting with somebody recently that bought it and held it even when it fell to 29 cents a share. And that holding that they have is now worth over $150 million. Auburn looks like a stock about ready to break out. What of the young guys that are there, who's impressed you the most? And what are you seeing out of them that makes you think they're tough enough to get through these next 6 games? Because you're right. Anybody that quits, they're in the wrong profession.
Yeah, I think the young guys on defense have been really good. Caleb Harris is a guy that I liked from the get-go, especially seeing him last year as a senior at Thompson and watching his development and growth. You need playing in a program like that. This was a guy that was going to be able to come in and help out. The difference, I think, for him is that he wasn't one of these guys that you looked at as a sophomore and go, hey, he's already developed. He's a 5-star guy. There he is. He's had to continue to work, and I think that's been big for him. DeMarcus Riddick, obviously, is a guy. And you look at from Hey, from a program that wasn't a Thompson or one of those places at Chilton County, and you say, man, he hasn't even scratched the surface. And now you start to see some of those things happening as an outside linebacker. And I think he's going to be really valuable second half because Brady Cook can run. And you look at his athleticism. Obviously, Diego Pavia at Vandy can run and get outside and do things. Jalen Milroe can obviously run and get outside and do things. Texas A&M with Connor Wegman can run. Having more of those athletic guys to help, contain quarterbacks is going to be really important. So I think DeMarcus Riddick has a big part of things, but Jay Crawford's been good at corner. I think you look at him, and then the other side, obviously, Malcolm Simmons has really come on. And you saw more of the young guys against Georgia. Unfortunately, he had a play he'll tell you he should have made. Perry Thompson had a play that he probably could have made. Cam Coleman, they said, hey, we're not going to let that guy beat us. And so they bracketed him only. So it means, as Hugh Freeze said, now the next step for young guys on offense especially is, hey, can we move you to another place?
Yeah.
And instead of playing, hey, we're going to line you up on the left side and that's your position, can we move you so a defense can't do those things to you? And so that's the next step for these young guys on offense. But I mean, I think I've seen some growth out of these guys for sure. Even the second-year guys, Keldrick Falk has taken a huge step forward and become the guy that we thought he could be. Connor Lew, some of these other ones, we've seen these second-year guys continue to develop, and that's the thing. I know I'm getting long-winded, but when you look at it,
no, we're all ears.
I said it for the last few weeks that if you look at this team and you say, okay, who are the guys that you think are surefire NFL guys? Most of those guys are freshmen, sophomores that you think have a chance to be those guys. You look at the upperclassmen group and they go, Keontae Lambert-Smith has been really good. I think he's an NFL guy. Jarquez Hunter can be an NFL guy, but I don't think it's surefire because he's a running back. And you go, he's not 6'2", 225 and running a 4.3. Those are surefire guys. Other than that, I think Dylan Wade and Jeremiah Wright are guys that will have a chance. Maybe Jalen McLeod. But there's nobody in this upperclassmen group where you go, man, that guy's going to play in the NFL for a long time. It's just not there.
Yeah. And I talked to a friend that gets to go to some of the practices, and he said, before the season started, he said, there is a 180-degree difference between this freshman class that's on campus and what we consider to be our upperclassmen, which there are very few of. And it's frustrating. But you know what I noticed? When I'm at the games, we're down there at the Auburn-Oklahoma game, those are your investors, the people who are the season ticket holders and all. They're not bitching and screaming and fire everybody and all like that. Those are your investors in the company. Real quick, I know you got a busy day ahead of you. What's when you talk to all the recruits in this class, it's currently sitting at number 3 behind Ohio State and Alabama, and it could eventually be number 1. Tell us about that, those conversations, whatever you can say.
Yeah, it continues to be, guys saying the right things, which is we understand where it is, and we understand that we can be the guys that help take the next step. I think this thing would look really different if you had gone out and you had lost by 3 or 4 touchdowns,
right,
over and over again, and people go, man, I don't think it's close. I don't think you can say that. I think you can look at it and go, man, they're a lot closer. Again, the record hasn't shown it to this point, but you look at the way they've played on the field and the young guys, and you say, okay, I can see that. I can see it coming. That's what these guys see. And you want to recruit guys who believe they're the missing piece. You don't want to recruit guys go, oh, we're never going to be any good. Well, you can help that. You want guys to go, man, I'm the guy that's going to make the difference. And they're recruiting some of those guys like that. And so that's what you want. You want guys to go, all right, I'm the guy that's going to take them over the top. And right now they got a bunch of those guys. We'll see what happens. Here's the thing. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, no matter who it is, everybody's going to lose guys because of the way this thing works now, because of the money involved. Somebody's going to come up and go, oh, hey, I like this guy a whole lot. Let's see how much we could. And not everybody's going to be able to be bought. Some will. Yeah. And And so that's the world we live in now. But I think this class has held together pretty strongly so far. And I think if you go out second half, say, hey, go win a couple of games and show that, hey, we told you this thing's on the right track, then this class will be good.
Yeah, and the reason I put so much stock in what you say is I've followed you since you started covering Auburn, and you're pretty damn accurate. And Auburn's about to have a breakout, as painful as it is. It's like trying to pass a kidney stone on your own, watching this. But they're real close. They're just not there. And there's a big difference between 18 and 19-year-olds and 23 and 24-year-olds.
Correct.
I mean, that's what people need to remember.
This is one of those where absolutely you go, oh man, you're tired of seeing these things happen. Well, they happen for a reason.
Yeah,
they're not happening because Hugh Freeze all of a sudden forgot how to coach. Do I think they could have done things? Absolutely, they could have done things better. But those things are magnified when the talent level forces you to not be able to make mistakes.
Yeah,
as I've said before, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, you take it, don't matter who it is. Those guys have the same coaching issues that everybody else does.
Yep.
But when you have great players and you have them all across the field, those things aren't magnified like they are when you're struggling. And so the only way to get there, and I talked to coaches in other sports, I ran into a women's basketball coach yesterday, and they're like, hey, still recruiting, we're going out. I was like, that's it. There's no secret. Yeah. Go get the best players you can get, go get as many of them as you can get, and then you take your chances.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, great stuff as always. Let people know how they can follow you, and we'll get you back on next week and keeping up with this. Tigers are off this weekend, but getting ready for Missouri will be an interesting week.
Yep, you can check us out at auburnundercover.com, part of the 24/7 network. Follow us on our YouTube page as well. You can subscribe. It's free there at Auburn Undercover. And also follow me on Twitter at ITATJason.
Yeah, you're putting out a lot of really good content. We had Ronnie Sanders on a couple of weeks ago. Y'all are – pay attention, folks, Auburn Undercover. All right, have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Mitch Davis and Bo Carter jumping in here with us right now. Two wise guys. I mean, I sound like good fellas, a couple of wise guys. But look, interesting take there. And this is how you see it. Hugh Freeze did not get a football lobotomy. I said this after Brent Venables' first year at Oklahoma when they went and lost a bunch of games. If you studied closely, you saw of the last 5 games in Venables' first year, they lost 4 of them by 3 points each. Okay? Again, you can't get a football lobotomy in the drive-thru at Crystal. You're lucky if you even get hot crystals anymore in today's world. But Mitch, Bo Carter used to be the SID at Mississippi State. He is connected everywhere. He's covering Mississippi State now. What's going on down there with Jeff Lebby? The world we live in, the microwave world. Get rid of him, fire him. I mean, if we did it like this, we'd have a new coach every 3 or 4 weeks. But, Mitch, your take on the Bulldogs, where they are, and the rest of the season, because we got a long way to go.
Yeah, first and foremost, before I even get started with that, I do want to say my thoughts and prayers are with those impacted by the hurricanes up in North Carolina. Got a lot of friends up there. Just total devastation up there, and also to the ones in Florida as well. I know Brendan's probably, I think, in the path of the hurricane as well. So my thoughts and prayers. I know right now we're going to talk about college football. And that's
absolutely. That's a little more important
to talk about, guys. But, you know, I think it's also important that we put this thing into perspective. There are people that are fighting for their life, and we're here to offer them a little bit of slice of distraction. And sorry, guys, I got a cough drop. I'm battling some major allergy issues after doing 6 college football games in 6 weeks. So my body is a little tired, but we're okay. Things are going good in the SIP. Ole Miss rebounded last week against South Carolina. And Mississippi State is in a great position right now. And I know that people are going to, say that Mitch, he's losing games or whatever at Mississippi State. Give him time. Rob, like I told you the other night about Auburn, when you called me, I think, twice, 2 or 3 times the last 2 weeks, kind of freaking out a little bit. I kind of talked to you off the ledge and said, hey, give Hugh Freeze some time. Okay. Like I everybody who knows me knows I have a relationship with Hugh Freeze, and I've been with him since Briarcrest Christian School. He's a really close family friend of ours.
Oh, your grandfather hired him.
Yeah, my grandfather hired him, and I'll just say this. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm gonna say it. He actually came to my grandfather's funeral, so he is I hold Coach Freeze in high regards. I know he's not perfect. He knows he's not perfect, but
nobody is.
Football programs take 3 to 4 years to build. He's still in this rebuilding process, and like I said the other day I think I was on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere like that. Auburn fans need to realize that, one, they might want to be Alabama right now, or they might want to be Georgia, but in order to get there, the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And you got to give some time, man. I mean, you got to give Hugh Freeze at least 3 to 4 years to fully turn this thing. And that's what I'm telling Mississippi State fans. I'm like, look, you guys have been through hell and back with Mike Leach passing. You've been through a lot with they had to hire Zach Arnett. They had no other choice but to hire Zach Arnett. They were almost at the point of not having a program. And so they had to hire Zach Arnett. And now you get Jeff Levy in there. He's enthusiastic. He's getting recruits, going into the JUCO ranks. He's going old school Mississippi State football, and it's a lot of fun. It's infectious. I love Jeff Levy. I am a Jeff Levy guy, and I like Kiffin, but I relate more to Jeff Levy because he's just a good old boy. He loves Mississippi State, and his family loves him. I'm telling State fans the same thing I'm telling Auburn fans. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. It's going to be okay. It might not look sexy right now. It might not look attractive right now. But what you got to take away, I looked at that Texas and Mississippi State game, and I saw improvement. I saw a Mississippi State team that scored an offensive touchdown that, held, I think, Texas. I don't have the stats right in front of me. Held Texas on the defensive side. So there were improvements. So, again, you've got to pump the brakes. I mean, and what we're seeing now in this transfer portal era is, yes, you'll get lucky every now and then. Look at Vanderbilt. I love this Diego kid. He is
Pavia. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that kid. That dude's awesome. Great for college football. But we're also seeing the downfall of some of these kids. We saw it at Georgia, and I know we can probably talk on that with Ra and the latest guy who got arrested.
Yeah. It's hard to keep track.
Pump the brakes. pump the brakes. Yeah. It's going to be okay.
Well, I'll say this, Mitch, and you're right about it. I just was talking to Jason Caldwell. When your roster's gutted and 2 years after a full recruiting class was signed in February of 21 by Brian Harsin, 2 years later, only one player from that class is still on the roster, Jarquez Hunter. As Rosanna Dana used to say on Saturday Night Live, you got a problem. You got major problems. You got to figure it out. Bo Carter, having been an SID, media relations, National Football Foundation, the Merv Griffin of college football, sports information people. How would you handle what's going on at Mississippi State or any of these schools right now when, the barbarians, the Visigoths, and the Huns are at the gates of Rome? Because I don't think Nero's fiddling.
No,
Deep
exactly.
thoughts there.
No. Mitch hit it on the head too. Just pump the brakes. You've got to. These days, hey, look at. Several programs. Baylor wins the Big 12 championship 2 years ago, and now they're on Dave Aranda. Poor guy, head coach over there. It's just the portal and the NIL just have this. It's a totally brand new world out there. So. You can build a men's basketball team, get 13 or 14 new players in every year, but you can't do that with or baseball. You just can't do that with football. You've got to. Rob, you made a great point. One player left from Freeze's recruiting class 2 years ago.
No, Harson's. Please don't put Freeze and Mr. Potato Head in the same sentence.
There's one player that's left over for Hugh Freeze. So
I've never seen that happen before.
No, it really is. You've got to wonder, but. And Auburn's been competitive in the games, just the turn, on the head turnovers and just good points too, as far as that goes.
Yeah, Mitch, with Mississippi State, I'm with you. I watched that Texas game. I think they were a 45.5-point dog in that game. Yeah. They played them tight. What the takeaway is from that, agree or disagree with me, I'm gonna say is the state players did not quit, even though they were seriously outmanned. That's how you build a program. You don't build it with quitters. I have another word for them, which I won't say on the show, but you can't build a football team with guys like that.
Yeah, and I think that, what we're seeing with Mississippi State is guys that are going all in with Coach Levy. They're saying, you know what, Coach Levy is our coach. He's going to take us to the promised land. And what people forget is Mississippi State only returned 5 total starters on both sides of the ball last season. They only returned 5 total starters on both sides of the ball this year. Wow. They didn't have anybody coming back in. They didn't have the starters. They didn't have that experience. And now that they're getting experience, look at Stone Blanton. Stone Blanton's a beast in the middle. And then you go down the list and you go look at, okay, Blake Shapen got hurt. So what's going to happen? All right, Michael Van Buren, the future of the quarterback position at Mississippi State, stepped up, scored an offensive touchdown, did it with his legs. So it's not conventional. But I've been telling people, and I wrote this in an article last week. I said, look, there's this feeling that you get that Mississippi State is going to pull off some kind of upset this year. I don't know if it's going to be over Texas A&M or if it's going to be Mizzou or if it's going to be in the Egg Bowl, which weird. Bo and Rob, y'all know the Egg Bowl is weird. The Egg Bowl, weird, crazy stuff happens. And like things you don't expect to happen in that game. So that's kind of, again, I'm pump the brakes. It's going to be okay. There's a lot of momentum in Starkville. Basketball's doing really well. Baseball's on the rise again. Softball, women's basketball. Go down the list. And Mississippi State and also Ole Miss. And Rob, I've said this on your show before. There is something happening in the state of Mississippi right now that is so hard to describe to people outside of the state, but it's so infectious. It's almost a revival of some sorts in the state. Economically, people are moving to Mississippi. I decided to leave Memphis, of all places, to move to Mississippi. I love Memphis, and I'm a Tiger fan through and through, and I will always be a Tiger fan. But I moved to Mississippi. I chose to come here because there is something – I can't describe it because there is something so – and it started with those 2 national championships in baseball. And now it's kind of turned into – we're Mississippi, and we're damn proud of that. And it is so infectious. Like you go to Vaught Hemingway, or you go to Davis Wade, or even you go down to the Rock, and people are proud of what the state is producing. The JUCO ranks, they're breaking attendance records. I know Northwest, they're averaging over 10,000 a game. East Mississippi is averaging over 8,000-9,000 a game for JUCO college football. And I know high school football down here, Tupelo's got a stadium that seats, I think, 8,000. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. 8,000-9,000. New Albany, where I live, is a place that seats 5,000. They're selling out of every game, both baseball and football. So there's something going on in this state, and I don't know if it's has to do with what Tate Reeves has done as a governor, kind of like what Ron DeSantis has done down in Florida, Governor Abbott's done in Texas, or if it's a mixture of everything, where you've got not only a great leader in our governor down here in Tate Reeves, but you also got great college coaches that are kind of pouring into this state. And when people bring up Lane Kiffin to Florida, guys, why would Lane Kiffin leave Ole Miss to go to Florida? And that's kind of another topic that I feel strongly about, because why would Lane Kiffin leave Ole Miss and he has it made here? His family's here now. His son is a freshman at Oxford High School. His daughter is a freshman at Ole Miss. Why? His girlfriend is here. Why would he leave Ole Miss, where he has it made, where he is a god, to go to Florida?
Well, I mean, obviously they've won 3 national championships in 96, 06, and 08, and the recruiting is ginormous. But why go there and have to rebuild versus what you have there now? I'll tell you something interesting about this. When you start talking about, you don't see people in the South moving to California or New Jersey or Massachusetts, but those people are pouring into the South because this is where you want to be. Bo, you know the state of Mississippi. There's a lot of pride in there, less than 3 million. I love it down there. I've got a lifetime hunting rights on a farm in the Delta in Lambert, down on Highway 3. It's a suburb of Vance and Marks. Love it down there. Go over there to Clarksdale, the Abe's Barbecue, and the Rest Haven for breakfast. I love the Mississippi Delta so much. When my wife's Jack Russell died. Mallory found a shelter dog and brought it over and named it Delta. And Delta is she's the queen of the house. She thinks
I love
is.
Delta. I love
know,
Delta.
She's a cool dog. She is. But Mitch is right. It's a pride factor. And Mitch, I know I'll keep you a few more minutes, and Bo's going to stay on because Bo was supposed to be on yesterday. We're going to get into the Florida-Tennessee game in a minute with David Whitley and Vince Ferrara. But Mitch, before you go, and I love the way you don't hold back, and you're right. You're looking at what's going on at Mississippi State. Baseball, you win a national championship. It just makes people believe, okay, wow, I'll put some money in there. And there's somebody at Mississippi State, one of your boosters, alumni from Houston, gave you $100 million a couple of years ago. That's a good start because other people will go, wow, I think I'll write some checks. Bo and Mitch, before you go, let people know how they can follow you. Keep up with all the great work because you're very active on Twix, which is a good thing. You ain't afraid to say what you're thinking. I have not been on the about to jump. I hate losing. I detest it. And apathy is what'll take you out. I guess you could say Rob Brown is non-apathetic.
Rob, I will say I'm gonna start billing you for therapy hours every time. After game,
yeah.
Bo, I promise you, I swear to God, I can pull up messages here from Rob Brown. You know, I won't go into detail, but I promise you, I'm gonna start billing him for being his therapist. And what's funny is I usually do it after I've had a couple bourbons after, I cover a game or I go, whatever. So me and Rob have some good conversations.
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
11 o'clock, my wife's like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, Rob Brown, man. He's called me. I'm being his therapist again. So,
oh, God.
But guys, you can follow me on Twitter or at M Davis _ Mitch Davis _8. If you get on there today, I have Draw the Masses, and I pissed off a lot of Grizzlies fans because I think the Grizzlies are extorting the Memphis Tigers for money. That is a well-known thing now. They're taking money from the state that should be used to go to Memphis State, and they're using that for rosters or upgrades to the form or whatever. So somebody made a comment yesterday about concessions. I said, let the Grizzlies walk, let them go to Nashville, let them go wherever, and just be a town of Memphis State where the money goes towards the University of Memphis. That upsets some people. But also the MitchDavisShow.com podcast, the Mitch Davis Show, wherever you listen to that. I'm everywhere. About to be crossover season. We've got Ole Miss and Illinois in a charity basketball game on October 27th. So it's going to be a lot of fun, guys, and I really appreciate y'all having me on. Bo, it's always good to see you. Yeah. And Rob, I know you got a bye week this week. But the therapist line will be open. So just don't bother me.
1-800 don't jump.
Don't jump.
Yeah, 1-800
the therapist is open.
All right, we will be talking more about it. That is, you're right. And when I calm down, I just go, you know what? It's going to be okay. Again, it's like passing a kidney stone. Drink more cranberry juice is all I can say. All right.
I'm gonna get you a little bit more better bourbon. I think your problem is you're drinking too much Ham's beer.
I know
you're kind of clouded a little bit.
Yeah,
you need some good Republican, good bourbon that kind of calms you down.
Yeah, Knob Creek or Woodford Reserve. Yeah,
I need to get you some Eagle Rare, get you some Woodford. You'll be okay. It's okay. But guys, thank y'all for having me on. I appreciate you, and y'all have a great day.
Salute. You do too, Mitch. Great stuff as always. Vince Ferrara, 99.1, the sports animal up in Knoxville, is going to check in with us here in just a minute. And David Whitley, the Gainesville Sun, looking forward to this. Man, where do you start? Let me say real quick about our sponsors. RumbleBoxingGym.com, located 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis, Union and McLean. Open every day, weekdays about 5 in the morning. You can get in there and get great workouts. How you fight is how you live. Absolutely great for team building, corporate discounts. You know what? There are no discounts in good health, fire extinguishers, parachutes, and brain surgery. Take care of yourself. Invest in your body. Also, the Vitamin Shop. 2 locations. Olive Branch, Mississippi, on the Memphis side of Mississippi in DeSoto County, and in Oxford, Mississippi, out on Jackson Avenue next to Dick's, the vitamin shop. They've got shot blocks, goo, prebiotics, probiotics, pre-workout, post-workout. I use this prebiotic stuff. I put a teaspoon in the coffee in the morning, which makes me kind of jacked up. But I guess I'm that way anyway. But they have everybody there knows what they're doing. Their staff is trained. They know what they are doing. And another thing I'll remind you of, it's about duck season starts November 16th. It's getting close. Web-Footed Kennels, Jonesboro, Arkansas. My friend Chris Aiken, love this guy, has 8 people on the staff working with him. They have a 225-acre pristine training ground with every technical pond, hills, everything for training. So awesome stuff. But our sponsors are the best. And then Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company out on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. It is incredible what they have. I was out there Monday. All the new stuff is coming in. Men's and women's clothes and over 7,000 pairs of boots. I got kids' boots too, but great looking stuff. Filson, Barber, STS, Old South, Duckhead, Marshwear. God, this stuff looks really good. Pendleton, Schaefer. Can't say enough, but it is a great time of year, all the new stuff coming in. Vince Ferrara, I was in Knoxville with Audrey at that Arkansas game, and we were sitting with Arkansas people in the club section. So, again, she's a Tennessee fan. I'm Auburn. It was really cool to watch. She was so frustrated. I think the end of the game, that Tennessee player that looked like he stepped out of the way of Malachi when he scored the touchdown, I don't know, what was that about? But Tennessee never seemed like they got in sync. Second road game where Nico Iamaleava was facing a really good defense. And what's your takeaway? Where do the Vols go? Because they got a pretty big one coming up Saturday in Knoxville. And David Whitley of the Gainesville Sun is going to be on with us. Dudley had to switch days this week, our normal lineup we do. But what's your takeaway in looking ahead?
Yeah, good to be on with you guys. It was surprising. I mean, we take predictions, score predictions from fans, and pretty much everybody had it as a double-digit win for Tennessee. No one could comprehend in any way that Tennessee would lose that game. And it's hit Tennessee fans pretty hard, and that's not surprising. It's the offense that I think is the biggest concern because we haven't seen the explosiveness that was anticipated. It didn't have to be exactly what it was in 2022, but it needed to be better than last year where they didn't have enough explosive plays. And that now it's 2 games that has not been the case. The Oklahoma game, you had a little bit of a reasoning because they had their 2 starting offensive tackles out, and they were just trying to manage the game. Heupel was just trying to get to the finish line with a defense that was dominating. So you kind of understood there, but then you thought, hey, I'll get back on track against an Arkansas defense that did not have very good stats and has had some rough moments at times, despite having a high draft pick in the upcoming draft on the D-line in Landon Jackson. But Tennessee had his starting tackles back, and it didn't make any difference. They struggled big time. So Arkansas went into that game, guys, with the worst quarterback pressure rate in all of the FBS. All 134 teams only pressured the quarterback 24% of the time, yet they were still able to harass Nico on the regular. Either Arkansas was finally playing up to their potential, or that really is an indictment on Tennessee's offensive line. Now, I think they're better than that, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. But that was not a good look, and they couldn't execute anything on offense in the passing game. Dylan Sampson ran for over 100 yards. He got in the end zone a couple of times. It's just a weird game. And then you got to give Arkansas a ton of credit. I'm sure Dudley has or will, but the fact that Arkansas gave up those 2 touchdowns to Tennessee in the third quarter, and after Arkansas couldn't take advantage of all their opportunities they had in the first half, Tennessee first 2 times down the field, drive down the field, score, defensive stop in the middle. You're like, all right, now the market correction has happened.
Yes.
Tennessee's going to run away from the Hogs, and it didn't happen. Arkansas immediately answered back, and they didn't have, at the end of the game, they didn't have the starting quarterback, they didn't have the starting running back, they didn't have the starting kicker. They had a lot of self-inflicted wounds too, and Tennessee still didn't beat Arkansas on the road. So there's definitely some concerns moving forward on this Tennessee team if they don't get better, especially on that offensive line.
Yeah, it was tough. David Whitley, the Gainesville Sun, on with us right now. Bo Carter, National Football Foundation. Want to get into this discussion. And David, I was on last night on the Buddy Martin show. Love getting all these writers together. There's just nothing. You can't get any better. It's like Austin City Limits or the Grand Ole Opry. You get all these different opinions. But David, let's look ahead now at this Tennessee-Florida matchup. Vince is up in Knoxville at the Sports Animal, 99.1. part of the Vol Network from Tampa. And Vince, I hope your mother and everybody down there is in a safe place because, man, we were talking last night on the Buddy Martin show. This is a big storm coming in. I don't know if you are down there or what's going on, but okay. But this is a big day, but I guess we can get your mind off of it for a little bit. But, David, let's talk about the Gators and the Vols because we will be glued to the color TV Saturday night.
Yeah, about the only thing moving slower than the Tennessee offense right now is I-75 going north and south, getting out of town.
Yeah.
It's not a good place to be, and of course, it sort of puts it all in perspective. But if the storm will have passed by the time Saturday rolls around, and people may need a diversion. This should be a good one because from Florida's standpoint, this is not exactly the get right game, but the start getting right game because they've won 2 in a row, but not exactly the toughest competition, Mississippi State, UCF. So the overriding story here throughout, of course, is Billy Napier.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with him. And no matter what they did the last 2 weeks, he wasn't going to move that needle. If they can go up to Tennessee and beat a team like that, then people will, it won't totally flip the script, but it'll certainly restore a lot of faith that was shattered in the first 2 games. They've done what they had to do, the last 2 weeks, even though they weren't going to, they weren't going to really convert anybody to, hey, I believe in the Gator. But, the biggest thing was the defense last week, which after, being on the missing persons list for more than a year was actually spotted.
That's right. That is a good point. I think David, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you froze for a second. Vince, and then I'm going to get Bo's going to like the judge here on some things listening, but Vince, let's talk about the keys for the Vols. Cause, Nico, this was his second road game in the SEC and only his second SEC game. He's got a very bright future, but the learning curve in this conference, you pull out of your driveway like you're living in the median on I-75, you better be doing 110. Maybe not today with all the evacuation traffic.
Yeah, and look, it hasn't been the level of crazy like Alabama has experienced coming off of the loss to Vanderbilt and, how they're, going over the top and wanting to fire Kalen DeBoer and all that kind of fun stuff. It hasn't gotten to that level, but there's been some people, we do it on our show. Rob, you love Jimmy Himes. You had him on for a long time.
Yes.
He and former Tennessee great Tim Irwin, who's a judge, they do Sunday Sports Sound Off, which is an institution in this area for like a next morning call-in show.
Yeah.
And they were taking calls where people were like, hey, what do you guys think about, I know, a lot of hype about Nico, but, he's this, and this. What do you think about them changing quarterbacks? So they were taking some of those calls on Sunday morning. Give me a break. So
wow.
but what happens is when you raise expectations during a season, then when you have any sort of little minor setback, you're going to have the reaction to where they think you should be, not where you actually are. And I think now people are going way over the top the other way in their thoughts and expectations, like the season is in the tank. So look, other SEC teams have experienced it and they bounce back the next week. There shouldn't be no lack of motivation with the Florida Gators who, and David knows this, not only have had Tennessee's number, but Florida is 6-2 in Knoxville since 2006. So they're winning at Neyland Stadium as well. So, and I think some Tennessee fans were nervous about this game to begin with going into the year, much less when Florida's playing their best ball and Tennessee is not. So from my standpoint, I think the 2-quarterback system is interesting the way they're making it work, because typically it does not. Those guys have been both very efficient. We saw Graham Mertz play really well last year. And then Lagway has settled in and seems to know his role. And then obviously they're playing a little bit better on the offensive line, running the ball. So they're doing, they were improved on run defense last week against UCF. Still, I don't think they've been fully tested yet. UCF maybe not what might have been projected by Vegas and some others. But I still think it's a Florida team that we've seen many times here in covering the Vols that plays above where they're at going into the game. Whether they're struggling or not, they seem to – whether they can throw the football or not, they seem to figure it out and throw for 300 yards against Tennessee. So kind of expecting an even higher level from the Florida Gators. We'll see when we get from Tennessee, who at least from their standpoint plays much better at home than they do on the road.
Bo Carter, I want to get your thoughts on what both of these guys have said, because they both know Florida in David's case, Vince, Tennessee. And I want to say the Alabama fans will be very patient and understanding with Kalen DeBoer no matter what happens. It's just
proven.
We're all so rational. So, Bo, weigh in here real quick. Love this conversation, man. This is really insightful.
Well, you had Ken Capps, all the Texas people are all overjoyed that
yes.
Vanderbilt helped Texas jump back to number one. So
next on the plank.
Pick your poison out there.
Yeah.
But no, it's great to see Dave again too. Oh, so good to identify. Sorry I missed your Big 12 Media Days. But it's with again, as we mentioned before, transfer portal, NIL, Vanderbilt took about half the New Mexico State team over with them, and former coach Jerry Kill, their offensive coordinator, a couple other people. So it's man, you can develop some instant talent, and boy, people just need to be patient with the coaches. The guys have hit on this very well. I mean, you can't judge one game or two games or 5 games, or especially Rob, you hit it on the head with Hugh Freeze too. I think people are jumping the gun on that a little bit. The SEC is brutal, and I think Oklahoma's found out about that already, and Texas is getting ready to wade deeper into the swamp here. So it's got no pun intended to the Gators, but the whole thing is just so competitive, as opposed to the Big 12, where you got a lot of passing offenses and teams that play finesse. The SECs just get out there and just take it to the limits every week, and man, you're going to go to those whirlpools on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and try to work out the kinks after these physical games. Yeah,
and David, this along that line, I mean, Texas has not experienced the grind. I mean, like they're about to see. They play the Red River Shootout Saturday in Dallas. The Texas State Fair will be going on. Then the next week they go home and play Georgia. So interesting take. And the Gator program. Florida, Tennessee is a magical – it's a great rivalry no matter what, because there's always going to be some interesting storylines. What are they?
Well,
where do you start?
You're right. From a historical standpoint, it's funny. Vince is right. There's something about this series that sort of, one team, they're like a ghost to the other team, think, oh, here we go again. Like something's always going to go wrong. And I think – you can probably trace it to Steve Spurrier. As a high schooler, Tennessee kid, instead of going to Tennessee, going to Florida, which basically changed the course of Western civilization in Florida. Those are some the clashes that they had in the 90s, and he took special joy out of beating Tennessee and Georgia more than anybody. And twisting the knife, and there were some great games. Great, people still talk about Peyton never beat us kind of thing, beat everybody else. And those are just kind of things that happen. And I did notice, looking over this thing, that Tennessee won the first 10 games in this series, starting in 1916. So, but then again, that was before Spurrier was a gleam in anybody's eye. So,
that's right. Before the world started working. Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. Even the last few years where Tennessee has been trending up and Florida's been trending down, Florida plays pretty well against them. I mean, they played their best. I mentioned the defense has been lost for a year. The last time it was really spotted was against Tennessee last year.
Yeah.
And, they sort of exposed Joe Milton, and now, new QB, different set of questions, but the questions are there. The question with Florida is whether, that defense, it made a leap, but can it, I don't know if it was fool's gold against UCF.
Yeah.
Or can they keep it up? I mean, they definitely improved. I mean, they had the bye week before, and they basically it was a hit the reset button, started from scratch, and it was like boot camp all over again. Yeah. And they've been saying we're good. We're going to get better. Just wait and see. We sort of rolled our eyes because we've been there all the time, but they actually went out there and they shut down a pretty good running attack. UCF, and so that'll be the key this week, because I think Tennessee's going to want to get that running game going just to take the pressure off Nico and loosen that up. And the question is, will that Florida defense, which hasn't been able to stop anybody until they got to UCF, I mean, we'll find out this week if it's for real up front.
Vince, Tennessee's offensive line, let's talk about them end to end. They've got 3 Dylan Sampson. They got some really good running backs, but talk about that matchup against the Gators front 7 that was spotted last week. He's right.
Yeah, and Tennessee this year has been better run blocking than pass blocking, but it had not looked as bad as it did the last 2 weeks, especially with their starters back against Arkansas. So you got Lance Hurd, a transfer from LSU, who had a really good camp, and then I think was pretty good to start the year, but the level of competition wasn't great. So NC State was supposed to be somewhat of a challenge, but was not. He missed the Oklahoma game. And then he was probably his worst game against Arkansas. Now they would put Landon Jackson there, who's a potential first rounder. Mel Kiper has him as his number 2 defensive end in the 2025 draft. So, but still, overall, they weren't creating a whole lot before that, as I kind of mentioned earlier. But they would draw holds, and here's the biggest thing: and Florida will probably do it too, because now 2 straight opponents have been able to get Tennessee to jump off sides. We'll have the false starts. They'll stem and they'll move just before the snap in unison. They'll just slide a little bit. And Tennessee was baited into that multiple times. First play of the game, Nico rolled out and had a terrific throw about 15 yards to Dante Thornton on the sideline. Call back because of illegal man downfield. Their left guard, Andre Carriage, a Texas transfer, he drifted 5 yards down the field for no reason, way away from the play. They just had a lot of those things like that. They had holds, they had hands of the face, and they just weren't good at those tackle spots. John Campbell Jr., who is a former Miami transfer, all these guys in him and Karch in their second year. He got hurt in the Oklahoma game, thought, all right, they'll be solid at that position. And he has not been great this year. So especially that last game. So they got to get better there. And even some of the vets like Javonte Spraggins, who's a very generally consistent right guard. There was some times where he wasn't blocking anyone and there's free rushers coming. Cooper Mays, who was the best of the bunch. He's a All-American type of center. There was some pressure up the middle, but he was probably their best. Yeah. So that's their 5. That's why it's a little bit of a concern for me, guys, because unlike the defensive line, where they can just put somebody else in because they play 12 of them, the offensive line, there's just not other options to go to that are seemingly ready, unless you think a freshman or a second-year guy at a developmental position it can step up, and they have not shown a track record for putting those kind of guys out on the field. So I think they kind of are what they are, unless they go to other veterans that have struggled in fill-in duty before. that aren't as talented. So they got to figure that out. They were great in those 2 drives they scored, and then it was a struggle in pass pro the other way. So matching up against Florida, I think Tennessee's still going to be able to run the ball some on Florida. The concern for Tennessee's offense is the pass protection.
Yeah.
Florida dialing up blitzes. And here's another thing is the last 2 opponents had the coaches and the players that talked about this. Yeah, they did things they hadn't shown us on tape before. Their structure was different. Arkansas was really smart in the run game. They kind of copied Brent Venables, where they would show Tennessee a light box. Tennessee is almost automatic in their box decisions. Light box, they run. Heavy box, they throw. And so what did Arkansas do? They muddied those waters in who was in the box and who was not. Their corners creeping in, their linebackers creeping in. Sometimes they creep in and back out. So Nico would think, hey, light box, we're going to run the ball. Next thing you know, there's 8 there waiting on in the gaps for him. Mm-hmm. And then he'd think it's a heavy box and he'd throw. And then now he's got no open receivers because everyone's back in coverage and there's no passing lanes and you only have 2 or 3 receivers out in the route. So and part of that is Nico's experience. He hasn't seen a lot of these things, and the last 2 DCs have been outstanding in throwing new stuff at him. And I fully expect Florida to show some things, whether it's exotic blitzes or muddying the waters. They're going to play copycat until Tennessee has an answer to it. I expect Florida to have some different wrinkles on defense, and we'll see how Tennessee handles it.
Yeah, one of the things, David and Bo, at the Arkansas game, they have the Walmart logo at one end of the field at the 20, and the other end is the Tyson logo. And
right.
So up in the club section where we were sitting, every time there was a false start penalty or anything that sends the other team going backwards, the sound of those hydraulic lift trucks, Walmart going beep, beep. They do that. I kept hearing that all night long.
It was loud on TV too, Rob.
What?
It was loud on TV too.
Yeah, you could hear that thing beep, 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 and the crowd. First down, Arkansas, and the hog call. And it was look, David. It's going to be Knoxville, so the crowd's going to be much more favorable. But again, there's just certain rivalries when you get on the field, everybody amps it up a little bit. I don't think those players are all caught up in what's happened up to this point. They just know what's going on today, don't they?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the beep, beep, beep when the hydraulic big truck.
I can't get it out of my head.
Yeah. We get it here every time Desmond Watson backs up. And the largest and he
number 21.
I didn't just say that as a joke. It's a segue into he's going to be a big part of this. As far as just stuffing the run because Florida they've had a real hard time stopping it till UCF and that's where they did 5 sacks. I think that's more than they've had all season just about.
Yeah.
And as Vince mentioned, teams have been disguising defense and stuff. That's Ron Roberts' calling card.
Yeah.
His they say creeper defense is just it's all built on making the QB guess where the pressure is going to come from and dropping guys back, that kind of stuff. The problem at Florida is that it was it's too complicated or what the players just weren't figuring it out the first few games. They weren't creeping. They just didn't know where the blitzes were late and it's I don't know if it's growing pains or what, but they got it together against UCF, and so if they did, it's coming just in time because what Nico's been seeing or hasn't been seeing the last 2 weeks is Florida's going to try to certainly they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over that's not working. Well, I guess insanity would be doing something that is working and not trying it yourself. So I'm sure Florida's going to try to get up there and do all sorts of voodoo stuff too.
Just real quick, Rob, before you Bo jump in, you mentioned the beeping sound of backing up. Unfortunately, that happened way too frequently for Tennessee to start drives. So now you have a young quarterback on the road, and now you're at 1st and 15. So you're limited in your run game. You're limited in your calls. You're playing behind the chains. And unfortunately, that has been too frequent for Tennessee, and it has been on the road. That was the case. That hurts you. If Tennessee also, when that happens, they can't get in their tempo. And that's such a big weapon for them when they start a drive 1st and 15 and then have just 3 yards on 2nd down with a run up the middle. You can't get your tempo going. They're front runners with the tempo. Get a 1st down, get a big run up to the line. Teams aren't set. They're confused. And then you get a 1st down, you pop a big play, get a play down the field. It's all you have to be successful to get that tempo going. And too often those penalties have been an issue for Tennessee to start drives, but it is at home, so they shouldn't have those false starts in this game.
Yeah, and Bo, in 1986, I remember Don Smith, quarterback from Mississippi State, out of, I think, Hamilton, Alabama, over there near Twin and Brilliant and Guin over there in Winfield and Winchester, and Carbondale, Alabama. Went up there to Knoxville, had like a 75-yard touchdown run. State got off to a 5-0, 6-0 start early on that year with Rocky Felker as the coach. But that game was in Knoxville. I remember it vividly. You're looking at this game neutral, and these guys are both really outstanding true grit journalists. I mean, they don't drink the Kool-Aid. They tell it like they see it. How do you see this game playing out before, as this crowd of some 105,000 will rise to their feet as the Pride of the Southland band comes out and forms that giant T, and then the Tennessee Volunteers, and here they come, ladies and gentlemen. It's football time in Tennessee. I mean, Audrey, my wife, her dad and her, he died 20 years ago, watched every game, went to him or listened to him. And I get chills thinking about that connection that we have to these schools. But Cousin Mark's got 10 season tickets up there, biggest tailgate, he says, in Knoxville by the Torch Guy. What an atmosphere, man. If you can't get fired up about this, you need to go to the doctor and get your blood back that you gave at the blood drive. Bo Carter, your thoughts and comments. I'll hang up and listen, Coach. Go Dogs.
Yeah. Rob, you've had too much coffee. I think you poured some Ham's beer in your coffee this morning.
That's right. Subdue me.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I missed the late great John Ward. He'd be in 5-4 in the land of milk and
honey. We're not worthy.
We're not worthy. But, no, it's a weird deal. Florida's back on the rise again a little bit, as David mentioned, and kind of going back to basics. And Tennessee really angry after a loss. Giant upset at Arkansas, similar to the Vanderbilt Alabama game. So you've got two angry teams fighting it out up there, and you guys hit the nail on the head. That's one of the SEC's great rivalries that just developed over the years, and Spurrier kind of took over for a while. But it will be a very hostile atmosphere for the Gators in Knoxville Saturday.
Yeah, and then Vince, you get. I can't imagine. We did a pop-up show on this channel. Remember after the Texas A&M loss? Wow, the raw emotions that you get. And y'all, we're all old enough to remember back in the days. I know on the Auburn Network, everybody did it. You would have an offensive and a defensive coach would have to go on the post-game show and take calls from fans who, after a loss at Auburn or Alabama, always are very reasonable and calm and collected. I mean, you couldn't beep enough, like, beep, 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 beep. Could you say something that we can put on the air? Because, and it's always, this here's J. Rodney Scroggins Jr. III. I'm down here in Pine Level, Alabama, Coach. I'm going to tell you something. Y'all suck. And then it just became crazy. But Vince, and the Tennessee, the passion, the Vol walk. By the way, I scoured the sidelines. Audrey and I both did Saturday night up in Fayetteville. I didn't see the real Smokey. I saw the mascot. I saw Davy Crockett. I saw all that. Smokey did not travel. That might have been why they lost. I'm just saying. But let's talk about that atmosphere for Saturday night.
Yeah, I think it's a new, younger Smokey, and he's still getting acclimated even to the large crowd. So I don't think even at home yet, they kind of bring him in just a little bit, not throughout. So young pup still working his way into the acclimation process with the people.
Sort of like Nico.
Yeah. But as far as the atmosphere, it's amazing, and it will be. We gather. I'm on the Vol Network pregame show. Gate 21. They have like an outdoor amphitheater out there. Fans just all sitting in the seats there and watch the Vol Network pregame show on a stage there. And just the crowds just waiting for all those gates open up, and then just so many people on the stand band coming through and the vol running through the tee. It's just there's so many amazing traditions on game day that really resonate not only with all the Tennessee fans and players and coaches, but opposing fans too. You don't. It's hard if you take it all in. It's hard not to be impressed by the passion and the numbers that are out there and what they all do.
Yeah, and just like in the Swamp, David, I've been a few games there. That is an incredible place. The world's largest outdoor steam room. I mean, it's like they bring in the heat from hell. I mean, it is so hot, but that's what makes it the Swamp. And David, we'll wrap up here in a second. God, this is college football every week. There's so many great storylines, but are Gator fans, in your opinion, you can't pull against your Gators, but a lot of them are ready to move on from Billy Napier. I don't know if Billy Napier's, maybe he's ready to move on from this chapter in his life too, but no Gator fan that I know is going to pull against the Gators Saturday night. So what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be an incredible atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, Billy's not ready to move on, but you're right. That it will be interesting to see how that develops if he does not turn, but start. If he pulls off a win in the next couple of beats Tennessee and Kentucky, but they finish sort of Midland 6-6. So fans are gonna be, oh great, but now we got another year. And so, but that remains to be seen. First things first, and they got to win a few of these games. And it's interesting to me though that if they did manage to pull it off this week, I mean, Josh Heupel would have lost to Sam Pittman and Billy Napier 2 weeks in a row.
The two hot seat guys.
He'd be like, the human fire extinguisher putting out hot seat.
Yeah, that won't go over well. That will not go over well. So we'll take your thoughts and prayers about our call-in shows next week if that happens. And they will have either the same record or worse conference record as Vanderbilt 3 games in if they lose this game. Somebody is going to be really upset. I mean, neither Tennessee or Florida is going to be 1-2. With all the college football playoff talk, that if that happens, people are going to lose it. But what happened last week, guys, is losing to Arkansas. Now, if Tennessee does have hopes for a college football playoff, they're going to have to beat either Georgia or Alabama. There's no way around that. And if they do, it'll be impressive because those teams will be ranked high. And we'll see what comes of Arkansas. If Arkansas ends up having a good year, that might not be the worst loss in the world to anchor you down if they end up being a good team, because it is a road game to a good team. But that's what it does, is it cuts your margin of error. They're still alive in this, but they're going to have to win one of those big games. But you got to take care of your business in your other games to set up the opportunities for those other games. And the only way is for them to get better than they were last week.
I heard a great quote to describe a team. If you got a bunch of guys on there that don't care about losing, don't give oxygen to somebody when the plane's going down that doesn't mind dying. You've got to have a roster full of guys that want it. Bo Carter, when you look at this, we'll close out. Last question for each of y'all, 10-second answer. Out of this, I like this. Gil Lawson, out of Bama, Tennessee, and Georgia, who is most likely to not make the playoff? I'll start with Bo, and then Vince, and then David.
Probably Vanderbilt. No, I'm had to get a Randy plug in there, Rob. No, I don't know.
What's that horn?
Yeah, the foghorn or whatever. But no, I'll be honest, it's too close to call on either. It's the SEC is so balanced and tough.
Well, you got to pick one though.
No, well, I'll say Georgia. They're sort of up and down.
Okay, Vince.
I might say Tennessee, because Tennessee has 2 very difficult games in Georgia and Alabama. Alabama has Tennessee, and their next toughest game is LSU. And then Georgia has a lot of tough games too. Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee. So I might change that to Georgia, actually, thinking about it, because their schedule is even tougher. So we'll go with Georgia.
David Whitley, you're on the block.
By coincidence, I'm wearing red, Georgia red, but that doesn't mean that I'm a dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Georgia. I think Georgia could probably sneak in with three losses if any team could into the playoffs. Tennessee, can't, and I think that probably would make them the most likely to be extinct at this point, just because of what Vince said, because of the schedule and how now after Arkansas they have to beat Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah,
and so that's going to be tough.
Brutal, man. Look, hey, listen, we're going to wrap it up, guys. Great stuff. David Whitley, the Gainesville Sun. Vince Ferrara, the Sports Animal in Knoxville, Bo Carter, National Football Foundation, Mitch Davis, Show.com, Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, executive producer Brendan Martin. Hunker down, guys. That's a dog term, but I know you got the storm coming in. We will be praying for your safety. And, man, we most often see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and be ready to help people. Whatever you got, maybe you want to go buy a shirt or a jacket or something like that. You might want to save some of that money to help what's about to happen, because in the South, it's hurricane season, and it's going to be a wild next few days. But we will be back tomorrow. That's the plan, weather permitting. But great show, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Be ready to do it again tomorrow.
So long, guys.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal, and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.